Welcome back to part 4 of Know When It's Enough. We're working on the protein skimmer on this big 460-gallon cylinder tank. We've just lifted off the collection cup, taken it to the sink, and we're now ready to empty out the organic stew that the aeration in the protein skimmer has generated. We're going to clean this cup so that we can put it back on the protein skimmer. You can see here the froth or the foam, the organics that the protein skimmer is driving out of the water through the use of aeration. This is a Venturi-style driven protein skimmer, meaning the water pump that sends the water and the air into the protein skimmer is the same mechanism. There's a valve on the inlet side of the water pump that allows air to be drawn into the Venturi valve, which in turn is beat up by the blades in the water pump and discharged into the tank. This is what creates the aeration, and the aeration is what drives those organic compounds from the water. In this particular aquarium, tall and narrow, with a relatively small wet-dry trickle filter, a protein skimmer is a significant benefit, as it'll help lessen the amount of organics that the biological filter ultimately needs to deal with. Off to the side, we've still got those 2 5-gallon buckets full of fish. There's 24 blue-green chromis damselfish, a pair of flame hawks, as well as a long-nose hawkfish. In the last 2 hours, we've took the opportunity to service the aquarium. That involved changing the pleated cartridge as well as the activated carbon. We then took and cleaned the coral sculpture and then addressed the protein skimmer. So now it's ready for us to start adding the fish to the tank. We've been acclimating for the last 2 hours. I think the fish are now ready to go into the tank. So we've got our nets. Let's go to it. In most situations, I would simply reach into the bucket and grab a hold of the fish in my hand and cradle him as I lifted him up into the top of the tank. In this particular situation, it's 2 dozen, that's 24 blue-green chromis damselfish. The largest might be 2 inches, but most of them are approximately 1 inch to 1.5 inches. That's too small a fish to try to capture with my bare hands. And so in this particular situation, we'll use a largemouth net. We can scoop up a number of them at one time, cradle the net in our hands as we lift it up to the top of the tank, and then release them gently into the aquarium themselves. Even though the individual fishes will scatter in all different directions as you introduce them into the tank, I'd like to try to introduce them so that they kind of know who each other is or where each other went, as the chromis are a schooling fish, and the sooner that they see each other and coalesce together, the more comfortable they'll be, because that's what schooling fish do. They cluster together. It's a defensive strategy. It also reduces the stress to the fish, because as opposed to a bunch of individually scattered, stressed out fish, it could be a group of mildly stressed out fish, and that allows them to adjust to their new environment easier and better. Now there's one fish that I put into the tank, the long-nose hawkfish, that when I lifted the net over the top, I didn't see him come out of the net. So I assumed that he hopped someplace, and I'm hoping that he didn't hop into the internal overflow. Make sure to come on back for part 5 as we go looking for the long-nosed hawkfish. There's the longhorn cowfish, and we saw the 2 flame hawkfish We also saw all the chromas that we added to the tank, but for some odd reason, that long-nosed hawkfish kind of disappeared.